For today's video, I'm going to be going over two brands, Artificial Fever and the brand Fugazi, and really talking about the difference between essentially a sales organization and a marketing organization in the context of clothing brands. So I'm going to kind of go over exactly what I mean, the difference between marketing and sales, why I think these brands lean in the directions that they do, why I think they're respectively successful in each way, and kind of maybe some things they can be doing better. And so yeah, without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it. Okay, cool. So first of all, again, we have this brand Artificial Fever. If you don't know, they are a brand. Actually, I don't really know a ton about them except for they've been around for, I believe, like 2, 3 years, maybe like 4 or 5, around there. I think since at least 2020 play at the latest. So you can check out their IG Artificial Fever, and this is kind of the aesthetic they go for. It's really rooted in like internet culture. We have a lot of motifs of like these cursors and clicking. Yeah, they even do like repurpose into the Yankees logo, which is obviously pretty smart. They have a lot of other like kind of slogans, if you will, like this artificial intelligence. They also, even within that, use a lot of, again, we have the LA Dodgers logo, the Yankees logo, whatnot. And so yeah, this is kind of their whole vibe, if you will. Everything to do with internet culture, a ton of reworked vintage pieces. That's why we see like this Michigan, we see Texas, we see a ton of Carhartt jackets, all kinds of different stuff like this. And then they kind of put their own prints on it. They also have this whole like loading idea, which I like is pretty cool. And so yeah, that's more or less the brand. And then we can take a look at their website real quick. Here again, just pretty much everything I just showcased to you. Yeah, it's more or less all this kind of vibe. Again, they do have some different products like these cardigans. Has this idea I fell in love on the internet, so everything again has to do with internet. Um, yeah, has all this like again like kissing emoji or like with the greater than sign three. So yeah, everything again kind of relates back to the central idea. But first thing to note, in my opinion, I feel like they lean more towards a sales organization. Now, what do I mean by that? So if we take a look at their again Instagram page, for example, they do not have a TikTok, no YouTube I could find, nothing else. So pretty much it just solely lives on Instagram, to my knowledge. So when I think of more of like a sales organization, I think of specifically in the context of a clothing brand, really a brand that's more focused on just getting as much product in front of the consumer, pushing like interesting and somewhere a good product. You can't just push out like basic T-shirts or whatever it is. Like at least they do have a central theme. This whole like internet nostalgia idea. They have some different motifs that they're kind of able to play on, and it's really smart for them to also use existing products that are popular, like a Carhartt jacket, like the soccer jerseys and whatnot. But yeah, if you look at their page, almost like the ratio of like product to like ad slash like creative with a person on it, it's way overweighted by just like putting product in front of your face, right? And so that's the first thing I wanted to know about like a brand that I feel like is more of a again like sales organization. And I don't know if they're kind of going for this vibe of like again like a faceless kind of like mysterious, no one knows who runs it, the people behind it, which I guess can like work. But still, even past that though, it feels like they're constantly just putting almost like recycled like product in front of you. Like me personally, I like the stuff they do, or at least I did for a while. But after like just a couple of years of essentially seeing more or less like the same type of product, even though like the dyes on these car jackets are cool and like this whole again like internet nostalgia is like a cool concept. Like I definitely think the concept is there. There's nothing wrong with like the brand name or like kind of what it's going for. But this I guess decision from them to go with like next to no like people involved, it kind of just makes it like it kind of just puts me off on the brand just a little bit, right? Like it feels just a little bit off. You don't really know again a ton about who runs it, and yeah, the ideas just kind of feel a little bit more recycled, and they're constantly just pushing new product, new product, new product, and not really telling a story outside of like the products themselves, right? Like there is kind of a story, or at least like a message with this whole like again artificial fever, internet nostalgia connection thing. But we don't have like people telling it even through like photos. We don't have it through like videos. I think they have a couple reels that I found. Yeah, I found a handful. I don't really know. So everything we repurposed in 2024. So this is kind of like a rewind of all the pieces they did. Here's a Black Friday sale. Sorry, I don't have the volume up on this. So I at least like that a little bit more. At least feels a little bit more like, again, that kind of like wonky nostalgia, like internet. Like that's the kind of vibe I'd expect from them to kind of like run with on a lot of their like media and whatnot. But like doing just like a lot more of that, right? Yeah, that's that. Again, feels like they should be doing like more, I guess, type of stuff like that. But it just feels overall incredibly product focused. We're not even within the products getting a lot of like innovation with that. And I'll kind of note some other brands I think might be like in a similar space of like product heavy, but still like doing something different. And I'll get to that. But yeah, overall, just feels like very again like salesy in the regards that's just like putting new product in front of you. They're smart from their end again of using like these already popular things like these collegiate hoodies and the cart jackets and the soccer jerseys. Like those are all like pretty popular like clothes right now. Also playing on again the New York logo. Even something like this, I actually like this thermal like idea. Like this just hits like a lot of like playing on a lot of trends, but done well. But still, at the end of the day, like you just don't really know. Like there's not really a story being told. They've amassed almost a quarter million followers, which is honestly very impressive. Like hats off to them. Like they're clearly like doing something well. I did go to their ad library. I have seen a ton of ads from them where it really is just like mostly bottom of funnel. Like here, just available now. Here's a product. This one's kind of highlighting a product that was coming up. This one again, product restock, buy now essentially. Red hoodies available now. Highlighting new product. This one seems to be more like hinting at some new stuff, and then available now. And I know, let's go to past ads. So yeah, again, I feel like I've seen a ton of ads from them in general. A lot of like boosted posts almost, or like again just ads like these. But yeah, the brand overall just feels like I guess you probably like could make it work of like a faceless brand or like the brand owner being like not in the picture, at least in the public. But yeah, again, at the end of the day, like I've considered like buying from them at least like in the past, because I like some of the products that they did, but it feels like this idea they ran with, which is cool. They never really like kind of like grew out of it or took it to another step, and like from the product side. And then on top of that, it doesn't really feel like they're telling a story at all or either, and it feels like they're constantly just pushing in like the same kind of cool, but getting less cool as time goes on. Ideas and products in front of us. And again, this is not meant to be like a diss to them. Like this is just my like personal opinion and like reflection from seeing kind of them over the past couple of years. And again, I like the products they've done. Like this hoodie right here. Like this is a cool hoodie. I think this is done well. Everyone's done their own like Yankees logo flip, but this whole like cursor concept makes ton of sense for them as like again their brand and everything they're doing. Um, but again, it just doesn't feel like they're telling enough of a story, at least to me. Again, it just feels like a little like put off. Like can't exactly tell you why. Again, it just doesn't feel like they're telling much of a story, and their product itself hasn't truly evolved as much as I'd like it to. So that's Artificial Fever. And the brand I just wanted to compare it to was Fugazi, really just because they were the first brand that came to mind when I think of a true like branding, marketing organization, if you will. And so I'll just get into that, and then I'll have a couple more notes at the end. So again, Fugazi, if you don't know, they're a brand started in 2017 by this kid Trevor Gorgie, and him and his friend essentially started this brand that's rooted in anti big corporation, a bit of like nods to Americana. And yeah, they just like have a really fun brand that doesn't take themselves too seriously, but has a very high attention and detail to product and photography and video ads and everything. So why I say they are a branding slash marketing organization. So big difference. Everybody's looking at their IG. Again, they do not have I believe they actually might have a YouTube, or at least I know the founder Trevor has a YouTube. But in terms of like the brand itself, like no other TikTok or anything like that. So we just have the Instagram right here. And if you look, it's not just like product like we just looked at with Artificial Fever. We constantly have like these lookbooks. We have these video ads. If you've never seen their video ads, please check them out. They do just a very, very good job.
Like you don't belong, even though you've earned your place. Common sense can help.
All of them tell a really good story. I advise you to go check them out. And even with those video ads, they always follow them up with a carousel ad. Well, this one just shows like a one static ad and then all of the products that got released with it. But they do a ton of really good dynamic between the video ads and the carousels. The product photography is very good. And that was another thing I was going to note too. Nothing wrong with it, but they do this whole like putting the clothes on the, I don't even know, like concrete ground that's like really popular among like a lot of brands. Like I've done that for my brand. Tons of other brands do it. But yeah, that's just like one thing to note. But yeah, Fugazi feels like very high attention to detail. They're telling a story constantly with everything they do, and then they've even done more things outside of that, like a collection that they did a runway at a courthouse. They have these again just really like unique video ads. They all feel different. Constantly feel like the brand is evolving, right? It doesn't really get stagnant for more than like a super short amount of time. They do have their products that they kind of rely on that they again like might use. So like again, Artificial Fever, like I was saying, has a lot of like concepts and motifs that they play on again and again, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but there needs to be more to just that. So Fugazi has something like their Tibets, which are one of the most popular silhouettes that they have. Their shoes are very good. That's I don't know why that did. Their shoes are again like really good, and they're constantly innovating on new products. So even when we go to their website, they have their recent DSM collab. So it's actually interesting too. Like even though this is more of like a vanity metric again, but like Fugazi has 180,000 followers, and Artificial Fever has like 215, which in my mind is just like crazy. And I really think a lot of that is just due to a high amount of ad spend. If I had to guess on their ad spend, I would also be curious to compare like revenue numbers and things like that. But that's besides the point. But again, we have again just a more like intricate website. They have all of these, if you will, like blogs or like again news tab that's highlighting their new releases. Of course, we have their shop webpage, which again is just pretty standard, nothing too crazy. I think they have a page for again, yeah, they do have a YouTube which highlights all of their most recent runway collection. Then they actually have a flagship store that has combined with a coffee shop. Then they have that DSM installation in London, which is pretty cool. So yeah, again, the brand just feels like very like authentic, constantly telling a story, constantly like engaging with you, whether it is like giving you like a good laugh on some of these videos, or more just might just be like super interesting. You see like the BTS of like running a runway show. Yeah, and even like down to like their product names, like everything just feels like it has like a purpose. Everything has been like thought of and attended to, and so that's when I think of like a marketing slash branding organization. Like they really just do a phenomenal job of like marketing everything that they do, and they just happen to be selling really cool product that they also have like a very good underlying theme and motifs and things that run within all their collections. And so that's kind of what leads them to being more, again, in my opinion, like a marketing branding organization as opposed to a sales organization. Another thing to note too is that they do absolutely zero paid media. All of their essentially, I guess, media dollars are spent into like the creative for all of their organic social. So everything from like an ad like this to their video ads. Um, that's where I'm assuming all of their again what would be like paid media dollars goes into. So yeah, nothing besides that I wanted to mention. So Artificial Fever again, we talked a lot about just like being product heavy. So I wanted to quick shout out another example that I've talked about them before, but just wanted to highlight another brand that does more or less like kind of product heavy, but still has a bit more like to it, if you will. So if we go to the brand Bad Sun, again, talked about them several times. Really quickly, even if you take a look at like some of their older posts, it really was just like very product heavy. And I think the difference for them was that their product is just that good and unique that it kind of sold itself. But even as time has gone on, they have. So we used to just get like maybe one unique lookbook. Even though this is pretty sick, very good photography and creative direction. Um, but yeah, they've really evolved into like stuff like this, which is just like insane. Just from this past year, they've really upped their whole creative direction outside of just the clothes and are starting to tell more of a story. Because Batson is again a brand that I feel like, even though I want to say they're more of like a marketing branding organization, I still lean slightly towards sales, and that really doesn't have to do much more than just like they're just really putting product in front of you, and the product is just that good that it kind of sells itself. But they've really upped their creative direction again, like I said, over the past year or so. I know their ad spend, or just I guess paid media, they do kind of. I think they really just do like boosted posts to my knowledge. They might do some more stuff outside of that. Um, but I want to say almost every like ad that I've seen from them, it's just them like boosting like their new release, which is something that like I do for my brand. I know a lot of other brands do. But again, yes, they still feel slightly, just barely more on the like sales side, but it doesn't even really feel like that just because again the product is so good. Doesn't It does feel like they're telling a bit of a story here and there, but I think also more so like again just the product is that good and they're showcasing it now in an even more creative way, which in that regard just kind of telling their story, even though you don't really know like what does bad son really like mean to you or whatever. So yeah, that was just a quick little thing I had. And then one last thing to end off the video. I was just kind of thinking about it, and like for a brand that just wants to start out, I think again, there's nothing wrong with being more like sales heavy, if you will, especially in the beginning. If you want to achieve, if you're just now starting or have started in the last like year or two or whatever, not hitting the goals that you want, even myself included, still really trying to, get my sales up. Hitting something like TikTok again. All these brands I mentioned are not on TikTok, but they're also like massive. Like Artificial Fever again, like does well with their ad spend. Fugazi just insane on the organic Instagram with just everything that they do. And then Batson just has phenomenal product. So all three of these probably don't apply to you. So this is just the first example I pulled up. But again, just showcasing your product on TikTok. Again, this is like the video that I actually saw, but we see all of these other ones that didn't quite hit like the algorithm, if you will. Then I just took one TikTok for this one. Again, like product heavy, doesn't really like tell a story or like doesn't have like the brand owner like saying anything about it. But if you're just now starting out, this is honestly the way to go. Just like showcasing your product. I would mix in besides just this, like actually like green screening and talking about your product, or like having you, the brand owner, in the like video and message and what like that, things like that, because I think obviously people connect with people better. Yeah, just starting off with that. If you're still like starting out or trying to achieve, there's nothing wrong with like again being more sales heavy. Especially a good strategy that I think to have would be like maybe TikTok you hit more like sales heavy, because people aren't really thinking about like people aren't going to come on here and see that one, but then see all these other ones and be like, oh, like this is whack. Like maybe some people will, but like most people are like going to see like the one video that like hit them and they're like, oh man, like this piece is sick, and then they go sign up for an email for when it releases, like things like that. That's really how it works. And then you would have maybe your Instagram can be a little bit more like buttoned up and can be more like more attentive on like the photography and like the videos and like things like that, can be a little bit more like again like buttoned up and like having the brand owner involved or like telling a story, if you will. So yeah, that's kind of all I had for today, guys. Again, wanted to kind of compare like that sort of like marketing versus like sales organization. I would be curious to hear your thoughts on the brands that I mentioned today. Have you heard of Artificial Fever? What are your thoughts? Fugazi, I've talked about them. Batson, I've talked about them. But still, if you have any thoughts on them, yeah, would love to hear that. And until then, I will see you guys next time. Thanks.